Call to order this special meeting of the Economic Development Advisory Commission. Ms. Lewis, would you please give us the roll?
Chair Gish,
Present.
Vice Chair Zimmerman,
I'm here, thank you.
Commissioner Wilson,
Present.
Commissioner LaParne,
Here.
Commissioner O'Neill,
Present.
Commissioner Lewis,
Present.
and Commissioner Reisinger.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. So our agenda item today is going to be 2A, the City of Kingman and Chamber of Commerce billboard agreements. The Economic Development Advisory Commission would like to discuss the management of the billboard agreements with Kingman Chamber of Commerce CEO Becky Fawson. So it looks like we're going to start with Josh. So this is discussion and possible action.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the Commission. I know that you got a presentation from Bennett at the last meeting, so I'm going to have a little bit of a different take on it, a little bit more background information, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions at the end. And I'm letting IT get that set up. So the 3 billboards, or the now 2 billboards, since the one was taken down along the new traffic interchange for I-11 and I-40, were put up in 1982. They used bed tax dollars to fund those. This is a memo that shows the West Kingman and East Kingman I-40 billboards. And this next one, there we go. And this is the Highway 93. So you'll see all those figures all together were about $49,498. The city had budgeted $50,000. And today's dollars, that's at $194,600. That's a really good deal for 3 billboards. You're not going to get 1 billboard up for those amount of funds. At the time, the City of Kingman and the Chamber of Commerce were working together. The Chamber was the acting visitor information center for the City of Kingman. And since the billboards were put up with bed tax dollars and put up with the purpose of letting visitors know what we have in Kingman, the Chamber and the City entered into an agreement for the Chamber to lease those from the city, manage those, then whatever revenues was their managing fee that they had got. That was an annual renewing agreement, so those agreements are what we're still working off of today. And of course, there was the term on the next page that it could be terminated with a 30-day notice from either party. This is an early Kingman billboard. Kind of give you an idea of what things looked like. The Chamber did work with their membership. They sold ads to a lot of the hospitality businesses, real estate businesses, to let people know what services were in Kingman. And then they used those revenues for their managing purposes. So this is actually the Highway 93 billboard after the skin came down, had the original painting that was on there that was referenced in this letter, as if you can see in the middle. Welcome to Kingman, heart of historic Route 66. This is dated February 22nd, 1995, so that's what the billboards looked like. And you'll see the little McDonald's portion on the side. They could sell portions of a billboard like that. Often the other side would be, maybe the full advertisement. Also wanted to just reference, you can see at the bottom of that letter, it was run by the director of the Visitor and Convention Bureau. That was tourism division of the Chamber of Commerce, so those revenues went back. It just wasn't general chamber. I think that they were using at the time for funding their tourism promotions or tourism operations, all of that. That was helping to supplement that. And then the city, or the chamber, at some point around 2000, 2005, we have 3 different billboards. They all didn't start at the same time. Entered into an agreement with Lamar. This is, nearly 20 years ago. It was with a chamber director 5 people ago, and they have a different set of terms. So their term was a lease of 10 years, and that would auto-renew unless there was a 60-day notice, and the chamber didn't have the opportunity to go out of that agreement, but Lamar could get out of the agreement. So it was kind of a mismatch from what the agreement the city and the chamber had, which made it more complicated for the chamber. They're kind of stuck in the middle between these two things. And I think that's no fault of Becky or any of the recent, that's something that was put on the chamber 20 years ago. So this is the billboard that was taken down. And this is the backside of what that looks like. And this is the billboard out east, I-40. That's what the backside at least looked like when Google had driven by. And this is coming in from the west side of Interstate 40. And of course, we've continued to operate with the chamber on a handshake deal. I mean, I met Becky 20 years ago last month at an Andy Awards committee meeting. We've had a really good relationship. Something we want to keep going is continuing to have that really good relationship between the city and the chamber. But we've operated to continue to have control of the messaging on the billboard coming into town, but it's been a challenge working with Lamar as kind of a third entity, not the one directly contracting with Lamar, to make sure the lights are up, to make sure that, when those go out, that they're replaced, or that we've got, this, if there's a tear on the skins or whatever, those are taken care of. So we're just trying to come back in and see if we could bring those back into the city's control, find other ways that we can support the chamber, like we're doing with First Fridays now. I think the chamber is doing an excellent job with a lot of their community events, the things they're doing for the business community. Myself, Bennett, Manager Walsh, we all want to support the chamber, support Becky in her role. I think she's doing a great job, and we know this chamber is stronger when they've got someone who's there for a good duration versus before when we had a lot of changeover at the chamber. So we want to continue to make that happen, but we also want to use these assets to the best of our ability, particularly with the new interchanges coming in, not just the traffic interchange that they're working on down here, but the new one at Flying Fortress. How is it we can use our messaging and bring more people off the interstate into our communities. Now, we did have a meeting with Lamar representatives, and they're open to working with the city. It's not that, we would continually just completely shut that off. But if that is something that we want to pursue, having an outside organization managing the sales, someone that professionally does that, which makes sense, it's something that would have to go out in an RFP sort of process. So we do have a procurement process that would have to go through. But in order to get there, we've been working with Becky to at least notify Lamar before that next 10-year or 20-year. They actually wanted to increase it to a 20-year agreement, going from 2025 to 2045. Before that went in, canceling it. So at least we're at ground zero, and we can take a look at things and figure out, where we want to go from here. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So does Lamar actually own the billboards, or does the city own the billboards?
City owns the billboards, and currently the one that was taken down and the one on the west side, those agreements with the chamber to operate them end at the end of October this year, so at the end of next month. The one that's on the east side of Interstate 40, that one is good until April of 2028. So even if we cancel what's going on with the chamber and the city picks up, we're going to continue to honor that agreement that the chamber had with Lamar. We don't want to put the chamber in a situation where Lamar is going to, come back at them for anything. But they do belong to the city. The city put them up. The city owns the land that the 93 one is on, the east one is on, and the west one is on a piece of land that we lease for $10 every 50 years, something like that.
So the question then is, so the city has contracted with Lamar to do the leasing or not?
We've contracted with the chamber, so I'm going to just back up here.
Where does Lamar come into the picture then?
So the chamber began subleasing. I'm going to go back a couple here. So in 1982, this is page 1 on the West Kingman West I-40, and this is page 2, very short, simple agreement we had with the chamber to be the managing entity of the billboards. It was a lease. They weren't paying us anything for the lease, but they were taking on the responsibility of managing the billboards. And around 2000, 2005, they began working with Lamar as a sublease to start selling the ads, and then the city would, or the chamber would get commissions based on those ads.
Does the city plan to replace the one that was removed, and is there talk of a fourth billboard?
So we do have a proposal from ADOT for reimbursing the city for that billboard that came down. That billboard is on land that is zoned recreation, open space. Technically, the billboard's not supposed to be there, probably should not have been put up in 1982 with that zoning. It has to be in a commercial or industrial zoning space. ADOT's let us know that, yeah, even if we were to change the zoning of that piece of land, because it is city land, into industrial, we couldn't do that just for the sake of the billboard. So, we've talked about, do we expand and have a bigger space that's changed for other uses, and then we're able to meet that criteria? Or do we just push back at ADOT? Because when you look at the traffic that we were having that saw that billboard, it was a lot more traffic than what we're going to have now, because the new interchange bypasses some of that. So we're going to have half the traffic. So either we've got to have a billboard in a similar space that's got that full traffic pattern, or we're going to need 2 billboards, one to capture traffic in one area and another to cap the traffic, coming down 93. So it's something that we're currently, our streets department is currently going back and forth with ADOT. In fact, yesterday at the meeting, we kind of teamed up with Lamar on it because they didn't feel like they got an adequate reimbursement for the lost revenue of that billboard coming down for the duration of their lease.
Okay, so I guess I didn't assume it would be put back in the same place. I just wondered if there was a plan to replace it in general, so thank you for that. And I wasn't sure if it was clear, Lamar, in addition to just selling the ad space, they also maintenance the billboards, and they do the skins on the billboards, correct? Mm-hmm. They do all of the work for them. Does the city have a department or capacity to take on that task if they were to eliminate the relationship with Lamar?
If we were to eliminate the relationship with Lamar, likely we would be looking for a contractor to work with, and that could be Lamar, it could be ESCO, it could be another sign company. Gotcha. There are multiple ones out there. That would be something we'd go out to bid. And that's something likely that would come back to council because of the procurement code and how much it would cost to do that over, a duration of time.
And then any additional billboards to be built would come from the bed tax like it did previously?
Potentially, okay. It depends on, for instance, you have the digital billboards that are throughout town, or the monument signs. Those didn't come from tourism dollars because they don't really message to tourism, they message to locals. So I think it would depend on the intent of the signage. If you looked at putting billboards on traffic coming into town, then yes, probably tourism dollars would be looked at for funding that. If there was, discussion of having billboard messaging in town that was more for people that were traveling around within the community, then that could come from a different pot of money.
Okay, thank you.
So if I heard you right, and the city's going to be looking to contract out the management of the billboards, what's the value add of taking that back from the chamber?
Sure. So, and potentially that we could contract that out. Potentially our public works would pick that up. I think that's something that, we'd have to look into and then give our recommendation to council. I wouldn't be able to do that as my loan department. We'd have to look at that as a team together and see what that recommendation was. And then it'd depend on what the chamber wanted to do, or what the city council wanted to do. But part of our concern has been when the billboards need maintenance, and particularly looking at lighting, because if the lights aren't on, then we're missing all of that evening traffic. We don't have a direct way of managing that or taking that on because we weren't the ones that were managing the billboard. But the other thing is when you have downtimes for, instances, maybe you have places that aren't purchasing marketing on that, instead of it being Lamar saying, call da-da-da to advertise with Lamar, we could have city marketing. We could decide there may be blackout times where we want to promote the community on both sides of the billboard. We'd have that ability to do that if we were more directly involved in the management of the billboards.
So if you're unhappy with Lamar kind of being involved, have you guys worked with the chamber directly to see if that could be resolved with them?
And we have, and I think, I'll let her come up and speak to that too, but part of that is each chamber person we've had in has inherited this agreement and not been familiar with the terms as they were laid down, and so it's kind of a re-education effort every time. But it's kind of a, telephone conversation when it's, well, we're having this issue, and then, it's the chamber, and they're trying to tell Lamar, and then Lamar's come back to the chamber, and the chamber's trying to relay what Lamar's been saying. And that's what my experience has been, but yeah, Becky, if you'd like to step in.
No, I was going to agree with you. Actually, I've learned more about these billboards in the last month or so than I've known in the 6 years that I've been in this position. Because it's like it's clear as mud. I didn't even have copies of some of this stuff early on. I got most of the information from Josh in the beginning. But the light thing, he is correct. It has been very difficult. Like, he would call me, hey, we noticed the lights are out. And then I call them, and then they get back with me. And yes, they're working. No, they're not. And then finally last year, I think it was around like February or so, I think we finally got them to replace the lights, and that was about a $1,500 expense to put the new lights on there. I think we finally got it fixed, but it was, I would say, what do you think, 18 months? Back and forth between Josh, me, the people down there, of trying to get them to fix it. So it has been like a third-party issue of trying to deal with that piece of it. He's absolutely correct. So, and I don't know if you've got any other questions from me.
I just have a statement. I would certainly, by listening to all the discussion, it would seem to me that if the city was to take the management of that back, that would take out a third party that really doesn't seem to respond to the needs of servicing the billboards with lighting or new vinyl or whatever. I would sure think that would be the direction the city would want to go, is to take that back and Jim work directly with the council or with the Chamber of Commerce and not have Lamar involved at all.
Yeah, and again, I believe when I came into it, this agreement or sublease had already happened with Lamar, and like I said, I didn't even have copies of this stuff. I just got a check every month, and I was like, oh, I honestly thought it was when Josh left that was kind of there. We took Josh, so here you get this money. When he went, because he did work originally for the chamber, and then they transferred him over, and that's really what in my brain where we got the money. I didn't even know that it was this whole sublease, and we fought even just to get the information. Now, I will say in the last year or so, the relationship between even the chamber and Lamar, and this, of course, our relationship with the city has always been great, but just getting through this process, it is kind of clunky. And my goal through this whole thing is maintaining the relationship between the city and the chamber and Lamar. I mean, they do a lot of great things too, and keeping the chamber whole as far as financing, because it was an income source for us that was actually pretty substantial. In our 2024-2025 budget, it was about $18,000 a year that we received from them. And then with that third billboard going down, our income from it went down to about $5,500. So that's money that I have to replace, and we are a nonprofit. A lot of people don't know that. But, we're always looking for non-dues sources of revenue and dues and things like that, or fundraisers. So it is a big hit for us financially. But I've talked with Bennett, Josh, and Mr. Walsh as well, that we're going to look at some other opportunities for different levels of membership or other partnerships or something that we can do if you guys decide that taking this back to the city is the best thing to do. So whatever makes all of it work best for all of us, that's my goal.
That was going to be my question. You just answered beautifully. Thank you. So it is, if I'm hearing you correctly, it is a budgeted item for you, income that you depend on.
Yes, yeah, $18,000. Our entire budget is around 400,000, so it's a significant amount for us to lose.
On that note, has the city done a cost analysis on the expenses of taking on that project, and might what the revenue increase could be from getting rid of Lamar? And is there math or details on that?
That would be a Josh question.
No cost analysis, no details, but we've had a lot of discussion about it. And so we understand there's going to be an added expense taking those on, the electric, the maintenance. And, we also know that there's the opportunity for some revenues. And I think, when Becky's talking about those numbers, those are based on agreements that were put in 15, 20 years ago. They should have been updated at the last time. It should have been making a lot more than 18,000 with the commissions off of those billboards, in my opinion, from what I'm looking at.
And that's
this is
why I
an
was
opportunity for
asking,
us to-
because I assumed that the figures were a lot higher than what they were getting. Because when I read it and did the math, I'm like, this seems like Lamar's getting a very significant amount of revenue. So, I mean, I could see why the city would want to take that back on. It does make sense, and as long as that relationship with the chamber is, still validated and continued. And their budget's important. They do a lot for our community, so it's a concern.
And like Becky had said, we've sat down with Manager Walsh,
Right.
Bennett, and talked about different ways that we can find other cleaner methods of providing that support without having this, this sort of complication.
And I think we can all agree that 20-year extension of that would not be appropriate. So we're right there with you.
Is there other questions or discussion?
So, hypothetically speaking, if the city were to take this back on, what would the, implementation timeline look like?
So that is a good question, Commissioner. One of the billboards, as I'd said, in the agreement with Lamar ends in October. And so if we were to look at bringing this up, obviously this is going to go to council, and we're going to get the direction from council. So that will be on the first, I believe the first council meeting, October 7th, that's in October. And then with that, we can move forward with identifying how we're going to move forward with this one billboard, whether we're going to go out for an RFP process or if we're going to start discussions on how we're going to do that internally. The other billboard would continue to be managed through Lamar, in either case through 2028. So we have some time to figure that out. And hopefully in that amount of time, we've got the other billboard that was taken down replaced, or we've got something else out there to help us out with that. And then we'll have a better plan in place by then.
It would seem to me then, if the renewal for this contract with Lamar is October, like next month, October, is that correct?
So the chamber's already sent them a notice of cancellation.
Oh, they did,
So at
okay.
the end of the term
We're not
for
gonna
both billboards, yep. And
not
so
gonna- okay.
the direction's going to be, do we revamp the agreement with the chamber, or do we look at taking those in and trying to, get things operating
Okay, good.
from the city side?
This information has been helpful, and the details are good to know.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. I just do want to apologize for the last meeting, that all of this information wasn't provided then, and I had another commitment across the street at the courthouse and wasn't able to stay right when the schedule kind of got changed around, so I do apologize for this being stretched out and all the confusion that ensued after it. Just wanted to say that.
Becky, can I ask you a follow-up question? Sure. So if you had magic fairy dust and you could resolve this in the way that you see fit, what would that look like?
I'd win the lottery.
You wouldn't have to worry about
I wouldn't have to worry about this at all.
Let's take that off the table.
I hadn't even thought about that, so I don't know how to answer that.
I just know it's a significant hit for you, so that's where my concern.
It is. So originally, I will tell you this much, JJ from Lamar had come, we honestly met for the first time about 3 months ago in person. It's all been just an email chain, and again, not really even understanding how this whole thing worked. So she came in about 3 months ago and said, hey, the contracts are getting ready to renew. The city, or the Lamar, would really like to expand with different billboards or more billboards here and replace that one, and could we look at some different opportunities? And the money, potential income that the chamber and or the city could have with these billboard sales, that we actually, her and I had talked about going out and looking for some other opportunities and adding, other billboards, because it would be this big chunk of non-dues revenue for the chamber. And then subsequent to that, had this conversation where they wanted to take him back, but and any non-dues revenue, that would be my yay. But I will say this process is very clunky, and it is very muddy, and I understand why they would want to have direct contact with Lamar. And I'm not saying anything bad about Lamar, I just think that the process itself, having multiple people involved, has been difficult. And, you think that you've called in and got the problem resolved, and then you find out that no, it really wasn't. And so, yeah, it was a lot of back and forth. But I do think there are other opportunities out there, even with billboards or with other advertising things, that could be a good source of income. And if that could come back to the chamber somehow, that'd be great.
In discussion with Lamar, when you talked about additional billboard placement and additional advertisement, was there a discussion of what type of additional revenue that would see, or was there any
We didn't get
idea?
that didn't get that deep into the conversations. What we really, at that point in time, we were going to try to identify some areas that are properly zoned, like
Gotcha.
Josh was saying, and it's really pretty limited. So some of that stuff would have had to be addressed by council of different places. We even talked about maybe talking to the county, placing one on the fairgrounds property, that could be an income generator. Could we have one out on Route 66, say at the Public Works building out there? Because again, that would be county property that we would be advertising events going on in the area that would benefit everybody.
Earlier in
Focusing-
Josh's, I'm sorry, real quick. Earlier in Josh's presentation, when he talked about from 82, when the billboards were purchased by the city, put up by whatever company was then in charge. In today's market, what you said, 150,000? Was that for
I
one
think
billboard?
190.
196 for all three. Was that an expense that Lamar was talking about? That would be an expense on the city to build those and put those elsewhere?
I
For the
believe
additional?
I believe Lamar was looking at putting them up.
Okay.
And, yeah, doing a contracting, I guess, through the city with the chamber. Yeah, it's confusing.
So Lamar would have paid for the additional
They would have
billboards
built them, yes.
Gotcha.
That was my understanding.
and then lease them?
Yeah, and then lease them back, and then you get like a commission off of the sales.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So,
Okay, so focusing on these billboards.
right.
You are for releasing the contract with Lamar, and you are okay with terminating your current agreement with the city?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And possibly with the ability to partner in the future as a contracting entity for them with that?
Sure, yeah, anything that we can do to make it successful for all. That's
So-
really our main goal.
If we do a 30-day cancellation on the contract with the city, and then the contract comes up with Lamar in November, is the city ready to take that over? And start selling those or start advertising on those?
We would be ready to take them over, whether that advertising would start right away or we'd put out a request for proposals, which we would have to do if we wanted to have another
third
group,
party,
a third
yeah.
party do that, then we would do that.
Okay,
And I think that direction, you know, like I said, we'd have to work with Public Works and come up with a recommendation for council and then see what council directs.
so if the city wants it and they're okay with terminating their agreement, this kind of seems pretty straightforward to me. But can we get a motion then to do that? I know we can continue to discuss this, and I'm sure that many of these discussions will continue offline, but it seems like this is the way that all of the parties involved would like to go.
I have a quick question. So the contract with Lamar has already been terminated, isn't that correct?
No, that the chamber had to give a letter at least 60 days prior to the end of the contract. And so Becky sent that out back in August.
So the request to council has already been presented.
The request to council has already been
So that's
sent
going
out.
to terminate.
Yes.
So now
Correct.
the only option is working with the city at this point, correct?
Is
Unless you guys find a third party, but I can't imagine why you'd want to do that. I would think the
So-
city would not take it on.
to answer your question, so the Lamar one is ending.
Yeah.
That one's coming to a close. But we still have the ongoing contract with the chamber that
Right,
has
right.
renewed every
Okay.
year. So that one has not ended. That is an option to continue working off that with the chamber. And at that point, you know, there would have to be discussion with our finance department to look at procurement code to see how an agreement could be made with another party that would still fall in line with that procurement code, because Arizona has an anti-gift clause that I don't think this current arrangement is following, although I think that this probably is put in place, grandfathered in from when it was, you know, put in, so.
But you could
The Lamar one.
create negotiations with the chamber to come up with a new agreement that would work for both the city and the chamber, correct?
Potentially, that could definitely be an option. I think, you know, what we're looking at is there a way that we could support the chamber in other ways and then pull this in so that we can have more ability to change the messaging and control the messaging moving forward on the city's assets.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, thank you.
But we don't have a requirement to maintain Lamar if we have a 30-day cancellation on the one that ends in 2028.
So, Commissioner Zimmerman, the one that ends in 2028, we will need to continue operating, even if the city takes it over according to the terms that they had with the chamber. So that one will have to stay in place until it concludes April of 2028. But they've already got the letter that at the conclusion of that term, it will non-renew.
So the way I see it, the issue is bifurcated. There's the issue of terminating the arrangement with the chamber, and then there is the issue of when the city, I guess, does take it on, whether Lamar will be continuing to service the billboards, or whether an additional, or I guess there will be bids put out to other companies to possibly service the billboards. So I am a proponent of terminating the arrangement with the chamber, but possibly keeping some, I guess, line open with Lamar, since they are experienced and, as I understand it, an industry leader in billboard servicing. But that's, you know, just my take.
And just to comment off of that, in our discussion with Lamar, they did express that they are interested in continuing to work with the city, so that is an option available to us.
But it'll have to go out to bid.
It would have to go out to bid. And I think we also have the bandwidth that if we wanted to manage those sales and that management in-house, it's something that we could do.
Okay.
Okay, so then there's really the question of, as we go forward with these billboards, what is the increase in revenue? And if the city feels like they may want to make a gift to the chamber.
I think that is beyond the scope of the topic. which just pertains to this particular billboard contract, or the contract between the City of Kingman and the Chamber of Commerce, their billboard agreement.
Okay.
I think if the commission wanted to, direct or vote that we do seek out other ways of providing financial assistance through membership opportunities or something, that is something that you could always do as part of the canceling of this contract and looking for those other avenues.
Thank you. Does anybody have a motion they'd like to bring forward? So maybe a motion to go ahead and cancel the contract and seek maybe an additional membership opportunities with the chamber.
Or make a recommendation, because it'll go before council.
Yeah.
For that final decision.
Yes, all of our things are recommendations. I see Tasha writing, so we're going to give her a moment, because I hope that means you're crafting a motion over here.
I could just, if you don't mind, I could just make a recommendation that we do cancel the contract and that we look at different ways to assist the chamber in generating revenue for, for their cause and to help replace the lost revenue from the billboards.
Perfect. Can I get a second on that?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect.
Okay, those were all ayes. Thank you. All right. A recommendation and a motion are the same in this case. So since we're an advisory commission. And with that, we are adjourned. That was the only thing on the agenda for today. Thank you all.